Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at the aftermath of World War One. In other words, we'll call this the aftermath of Versailles. So the Treaty of Versailles, as we learned back in December, was a treaty that ended World War One. So as we're going to find out, the treaty, everything that happened because of this treaty, the way the Germans were punished, is really going to cause a lot of bad things that are going to happen over the next 20 years and eventually result in another world war that's much worse than the First World War. So two kind of hashtags we're going to use that kind of for the overview of this entire video, not just for each slide, but covering all the slides, ties them all together, is hashtag knee-jerk reaction. Because what's going to happen in the aftermath of Versailles is that a knee-jerk reaction is when you react really quickly without thinking. It's a reflex. It's almost like you're so like you see with the doctor testing the reflexes, you don't think, you just react. So we're going to see some of those in countries around the world who react to some of the problems that happen as a result of the end of World War One and some of the things that happened due to the Treaty of Versailles. So the other hashtag that kind of encompasses this entire unit here is hashtag desperate. Because some of these countries are going to be in some bad shape after World War One, and they're going to turn some people to some leaders that you wouldn't normally want to choose this person to be your leader, but you're so desperate that you choose them anyway. So keep that in mind. Hashtag knee-jerk reaction and hashtag desperate. This is kind of the two overlying hashtags for the entire unit we're going to be covering here. So your first main idea for this this section here is called is the Treaty of Versailles is flawed. So hashtag severe punishment. Not really complicated here, but the Treaty of Versailles is going to punish the living crap out of Germany. Germany gets all the blame. The Allies, which are the United States, England, France, Italy, they're all going to blame, and Russia too, will all blame Germany for the war. Even though Austria-Hungary fought with them and the Ottoman Empire fought with them, Germany's going to get really most of the blame. For the most part, Germany was pretty much forced to pay the Allies $30 billion way back in 1919 to cover all the costs of fighting the war and even paying for the medical bills and some pensions for the soldiers. Today, that would be $2.7 trillion, the way that times have changed. That's a lot of money. So, in other words, Germany is going to go into some serious debt. As a result of the war, just think of how kind of like dumb this is. Really kind of dumb, because Germany is all destroyed and beat up from war. They're already broke because of war, and now we're going to say, yeah, you guys have to pay a whole bunch of money. So Germany's going to be like, well, yeah, okay, we're going to take the blame here, but how do we pay for this? So Germany is going to look like that little sad bulldog you see over here on the bottom left corner right here. You're like, yeah, how are we going to do this? Really? I mean, the war wasn't good for really anybody, and now you want us to pay, and we don't have anything to pay you with, so it's going to get really bad in Germany. People are going to starve. They're just going to feel really down and embarrassed. Prices for food go up. Think about paying $50 for a hamburger. That's pretty much kind of what it was in Germany at this time. Everything just went up. It was just not a good time to be a German. And to really pour more salt in the wounds and make things more difficult for Germany, Germany pretty much had everything taken from them besides being charged all this money in debt. The German army was no more. Very few soldiers were left, and Germany was not, for years, not allowed to have an army because their neighbors, France, were like, no, you know what, Germany, you've attacked us too much. We don't trust you. You guys started this huge war. You guys don't need to have an army, because if you do, we just don't trust you to have an army. All the European lands that weren't part of Germany before got returned to old countries. Small parts of France and Eastern Europe got returned to their former owners. In addition, all German lands around the world, in Africa, in Asia, and the Pacific Ocean, were taken away from Germany and given to the Allies. So long story short, this is some severe punishment for Germany. This next slide, we're going to talk about, we're going to head east to Russia. And the The title for this slide and this main idea is Russian Tsars Fuel Revolution. I know the word Tsar looks kind of funny. The C is silent. There's another way actually to spell the word Tsar. It's Tsar, but we're going to use this spelling. So the Tsar, as we learned way back in the fall, we learned about Catherine the Great and some other Russian leaders. A Tsar is just like a Russian word for like a king. Is actually the Russian way to pronounce the word Caesar. Caesar used to be the name for the old emperors of Rome, so it's kind of the word they used to give to their king. So for hundreds of years, the Tsars ruled Russia. They had a king. And for this main idea, we're going to go with hashtag Tim DeRuyter. I know it doesn't sound like it doesn't spell kind of funny, but that's how you pronounce his name. Tim DeRuyter, as you see over here on the left, was a former Fresno State football coach. And Tim DeRuyter left Fresno State in a really bad spot. He took over a team in 2012, and it was very talented. If you're a Raider fan, you know who Derek Carr is. And Tim DeRuyter got to coach Derek Carr for 2 years. And Fresno State, when Derek Carr was there, was awesome. Fresno State was an amazing team, had a chance for playing for a national championship almost. And DeRuyter looked like a genius. But as soon as Derek Carr left, Tim DeRuyter did not improve Fresno State at all. They got worse than anybody ever could have imagined. So the reason why we talk about Tim DeRuyter is because Tim DeRuyter was not a good coach, not a good leader. When he had these awesome players, he looked like a genius. But when all those awesome players were gone and he had to go out and recruit new players, Fresno State did not look very good. They were a laughingstock in college football. He had all this power and potential to be so good, but he screwed it up. He could have been great, given all the resources Fresno State has, but he didn't do anything with them. He made them really horrible. As we're going to find out in this main idea, Tsar Nicholas of Russia is going to make that same mistake. Russia at the time, and still today, is the largest country on earth. Look at the map here. It stretches from Europe all the way to the Pacific Ocean. It's more than 3 times the size of the United States. And the United States it's a very big country. Russia is 3 times that size. So let's think of all the potential Russia has just because it has all this territory, all the resources, the things it could build. It could be the most powerful country in the world. If we go back to World War I, Germany was afraid of Russia because they knew that Russia could be great. But when you have a poor leader like Tsar Nicholas, well, they kind of wasted Russia's opportunities. This kind of reminds me also of wrestlers like the Big Show here. He's gigantic. Someone that size should be dominating people all the time, but the guy never really became a dominant wrestler. So, again, like Tim DeRuyter, you have all this potential, this ability, and you kind of just waste it away. So Tsar Nicholas was not an effective leader. Just like Tim DeRuyter, not a great leader, Tsar Nicholas was very, very similar. So as the turn of the 20th century came around, we moved from the 1800s to the 1900s, the Industrial Revolution came, and Russia was kind of slow to join the Industrial Revolution and build factories, have people move to cities. Even though Russia had a huge population that could do it, they really didn't do a very good job of it. But as they slowly moved that way, all these workers living in the cities started questioning his leadership. Said, "Hey, we need to change some of your government. We don't agree with the way you're running things." And he's like, "You know what? Here's my army. Shut up, angry workers. Just go back to work and do what I say." So slowly but surely, a lot of people are really starting to hate Tsar Nicholas and wanting him out. The same thing happened to Tim DeRuyter at Fresno State. As Fresno State got worse and worse and almost embarrassingly losing almost every game 2 years ago, the fans wanted him out. Till eventually, the president of the university fired Tim DeRuyter and replaced him with a better coach. Well, the similar situation here is going to happen in Russia, except this time, Tsar Nicholas pretty much would have been fired, but he stepped down. He quit because it was getting pretty dangerous for him. The people hated him, did not listen to him. He would... So it was a bad time for Russia. He just had all this potential Russia could be, and he did not use it. He just wanted to sit there and act like a lazy rich king, and then just have everyone shut up with his army. Russia, despite the fact it has all these resources, still couldn't produce enough supplies. Their transportation system was destroyed by war. Didn't get fixed. Millions died in the war. After the war, people are starving. Even though you have all this land to grow food, people are starving. They didn't have enough fuel to keep warm during the really, really cold Russian winters. You want to know how cold Russia is? Think of Alaska. Russia it gets that cold, and you don't have enough fuel to make a fire and stay warm. It was just bad for Russia because, I mean, Tsar Nicholas in the palace, where he lives in his castle, is always nice and warm, get everything you need, and people are starving. People are suffering and dying, and really, people began to really hate Tsar Nicholas. So, as a result, he steps down. He steps down because the workers are just start slowly getting together, and they're following the ideas of the guy we see down here on the right, Karl Marx. Now, Karl Marx is the pretty much the person we give credit to developing the ideas of communism, and his writings influenced these workers to want the government to change. They wanted Nicholas to change, but he refused. So eventually, he steps down, and Russia's government's going to change. And what happens after he steps down is what we call the Russian Civil War, where you have the communists are fighting a group of people. A lot of them were some of the former supporters of Tsar Nicholas, but a lot of other people who just don't like communists, and they're going to fight for control of Russia. Long story short, the communists are going to win the war and take over Russia and change, and they're going to try to change Russian government. Now, for this main idea, it's going to be called Lenin Transforms Russia. So, as we said in the last slide, the communists win the Civil War. They're the ones who are going to take over control of Russia. So, for this slide, this main idea, we're going to go hashtag same crap, different toilet. So, it's kind of a funny one. I chuckled because I get to put a poop emoji on here, so I thought that was hilarious. The leader of the communists who takes over Russia after Tsar Nicholas eventually is executed, excuse me, his name is Vladimir Lenin. And Russian people have all this hope. Okay, we have a new government, new leader, no more czar. Okay, the whole idea of communism is to have the people, the working people, are going to be in control of the government. Everyone's going to have a job. Everyone's going to have a place to live. Everyone's going to have food to eat. Everyone has a purpose, and the people together are going to make the decisions for what's best for the country. If you look at the word communist, it almost looks like the word community. So think of a community working together for what's best for everybody. So pretty much when you think of communism, communists hate rich people. They don't like rich people because the rich people are keeping it all for themselves. That's when they look at Tsar Nicholas. That's kind of the reason why they hated Tsar Nicholas. He was a rich dude who kept it all for himself. Communism, we're going to share. That's the whole idea behind it. But as we're going to find out, the communists, under the leadership of Lenin and future leaders, are going to rule just like Tsar Nicholas. They're not going to be any real different. Instead of having one royal family in charge using a secret police, you're going to have a larger group of communist people, we call the Communist Party. They're the ones who are going to rule Russia. Instead of one person in charge, you have a larger group of people in charge, and they're going to rule the exact same way. They're going to use their secret police to shut up anybody who doesn't listen. So when the Russian Civil War was over, the people were kind of optimistic about things changing, but really didn't change at all. Just like we see over here in the Batman cartoon, the people are criticizing the communists, say, hey, you guys are just as bad as the czars. And boom, slapping across the face, shut the heck up. The secret police will silence you. So Russia, they tried to make a big change after the war, and they did, but eventually they kind of regressed back into their old ways. So again, it was the same crap, different toilet.